Welcome to the Neurodivergent Experience podcast, a podcast where we share the lived experiences of neurodivergent people to help create a better understanding for our community.
Join us every week as we bring you honest, raw, and inspiring conversations with specialists, advocates, and individuals who know exactly what it's like to live the neurodivergent experience.
I'm Jordan James, a neurodivergent specialist, father of neurodivergent children, husband to a neurodivergent wife, and author of The Autistic Experience, and I'm joined by my best friend.
I'm Simon Scott. I'm an autistic ADHD broadcaster, actor, and advocate. Join us as we journey into unraveling the neurodivergent experience.
And hello and welcome. I'm Jordan James, and I'm joined by my best friend, Simon Scott, and my other awesome friend, Ashley Bentley. And today we are discussing what, Simon?
We are embracing our inner child, something I think is so incredibly important.
Yeah, I'm dressed for the occasion. I have a teddy bear t-shirt, which I can't help but touch because it's actually sparkly and it's got the little bumps and it's really lovely. I like touching his little belly button.
I would literally be like doing little teddy bear rubs on that t-shirt. That is something that is quickly becoming a stim for me. I've realised I'm just standing like Winnie the Pooh and just having a little belly rub.
Give yourself a little touch. Yeah, and I've got my Pooh Bear. Yeah. Ashley, what are you wearing tonight, Ashley?
Well, I've got Mighty Mouse on. And we didn't plan this. I didn't know what we were going to be talking about today, but I just felt like I needed a little extra oomph. I've got my sock monkey here as well.
I love that. That's amazing thing.
Yes, ready to go, ready to talk about.
And what have you got, Simon?
I have got sweet naff all because all of my possessions are still in boxes. So yeah, thank you for that. I was literally just scrolling, literally swiveling around on my chair, looking for something to bring to the conversation. So my personality will have to do. If this is your first time listening to the Neurodivergent Experience, welcome. We are being joined today by the wonderful Ashley Bentley, who is a hypnotherapist, coach, and breathwork practitioner. She is a huge friend of the show and an even bigger friend of both of Jordan and I. And if you are a returning listener, hello, welcome back. You are in for a treat today.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yes.
I don't know where that came from.
No, cool. We'll throw it in. Why not? So one of the reasons today, guys, why I really want to talk about this embracing your inner child is I had a session with Ashley a couple of weeks ago. And in this session, we managed, I don't know how, I'm still unaware of how this sort of works, but we managed to take my consciousness to a place where I managed to speak to many different forms of my inner child and found what they represent. And it went from joy to wonder to fear to shame, and being able to connect all of these conscious thoughts and feelings has actually given me the ability to separate myself from them. And I am now enjoying things in such a guilt-free, shame-free way, in that I now feel like my inner child and the adult unmasked version of me are now actually starting a relationship, which is one of the most healing feelings and experiences I've ever had. So what I'm hoping to do today is to explain how that's helping me and how it's helped Jordan and Ashley, and some of the things that we could potentially do to spark that with yourselves. So that is the conversation for today. I have no toys. I have nothing to represent my inner child today other than me. So I'm going to let the two big kids in the room take over from there. So Jordan, you are such an inner child, prophet. So I'll let you pick up the conversation from here because you have shown me the way. So how has connected your inner child, really healed you in a way?
Well, I mean, first of all, like how I did it was just not being embarrassed about it. Just not being embarrassed about being my true self. I mean, I was having my hair cut yesterday, and my barber, he's a friend of mine, and he was diagnosed neurodivergent. And I was talking to him about, being a big kid and just having fun because he's in charge of his barbershop and he has to be a grown up. And the people he work with are, young kids. And I was like, you have to be like a dad. And he's like, yeah, I do. I have to, but I don't like it. I says, I much prefer just being a big kid. And I was like, dude, that's it right there. It just makes us happier because it's our natural state. Now, I can get sciencey. We'll talk about the synaptic pruning process because we lack the synaptic pruning that goes ahead in your average brain. It's what makes us who we are. It's different for every single one of us, the amount of synaptic pruning that happens when we are kids and when we are teenagers. And it literally defines us as humans in a huge, huge way because it defines our brains. So it's pure nature. And with mine, there is a certain point where that synaptic pruning, it just stops. And then you kind of just sort of stuck in an age. You just kind of get stuck in an age. And for some of us, I would say the privileged or the fortunate few, I certainly feel that about myself, we're able to adapt. So even though my brain is sort of stuck at about 10 to between 10 and 15, I would say, depends on the day, I'm able to act like an adult. Because I learned so being an adult isn't natural behavior for me. It's learnt behavior. It's mimicking. It's putting on a show. So when I have to do it, I'll do it, but it doesn't come naturally. It always feels like I'm in like a TV episode and I'm like a TV dad or a TV lawyer or something. And I have to give a speech or I have to be a grown up, but it's not natural. And it was fighting against that for so many years. So I would just be this pretend adult all the time. And that was what was really damaging me because I was afraid because I was always said, oh yeah, it's childish or you're being childish or, oh, you're just a big kid. And people would make that out like it's a negative thing. So I would hide it. But in reality, that's just me. So I'm not going to hide the real me. So unless I have to, I'm just going to be a big kid. And I love it. I love my toys. I love my video games. I love my Disney, everything. I love all my squishmallows and my cuddly toys and my funky t-shirts. And I want to be a big kid. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it was embracing that literally made me be the happiest I've ever been.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the connection of a lot of the positivity in my mental health is currently tied to the inner child. Ashley, with the work that you do and the practice that you do, how important do you think connecting with your inner child is for your neurodivergent mental health?
It is so important. It's so critical, and it is for everybody, neurotypicals and neurodivergents. But I'm so glad you brought up synaptic pruning, Jordan, because that is a key part to this. With the synaptic pruning, we're building our model of the world those first 7 years of life. Everybody is. And so when you think about it, it's sort of 6-year-old Ashley running the show right now in my life. It's 6-year-old Jordan. It's 6-year-old Simon. And you think, well, God, that's not really, do we want a load of 6-year-olds running things for us? We've got life experience. We've got life experience under our belt. We've got so many things that we've learned. So there is this push-pull. There is this clash of adult me wants to do this, but yet child me is like, no. And so there's a lot of push-pull. And in that synaptic pruning, so another way to think about it to people out there who may not be familiar with it is, when we're born, we're so open. We're just so completely open to everything. We're basically constantly in a state of hypnosis those first 7 years. So our brains are so plastic. We're really taking everything in. And then, let's say the first thing you learn is how to set the table. Okay. You learn how to set the table. that's a bit of synaptic pruning happening there. We're narrowing our focus of the world as we get older. Okay, then you learn to write an essay at school. Then you learn to build a life for yourself. As you are growing up, your focus is narrowing and narrowing and narrowing with that synaptic pruning. But of course, with the neurodivergent community, that synaptic pruning isn't happening. We're not narrowing as much. So we're trying to make sense of the world. We're trying to build a life, but we're still so very open. We still have so much at our conscious level that neurotypicals can laser focus. Now we can laser focus as well, but there's still so much going on. So how does this relate to the inner child? Well, the inner child, as we said, is all of the beliefs about who we are and our place in the world. Those are built in those first 7 years. So a lot of times we get into our adult life having built our model of the world, built on other people's expectations, on social conditioning. And if we're neurodivergent, oh my gosh, we're masking, everything is so confusing. We're trying to find our way and we're heavily masking. And this little child within us is so confused, trying to make sense of what the adult you is doing. And so when we go into hypnosis, that is a state it's a really interesting state. It's a very natural state to be in. We are all hypnotized multiple times a day. Anytime you have a combination of deep relaxation with deep focus, that is when hypnosis occurs. And that doesn't, normally those two things don't go together, which is why hypnosis is so effective at opening a window or opening a door rather into the unconscious, which is where the inner child lies. And that's when we can begin to explore exactly what those filtration systems are, what the inner child is looking to accomplish, how basically your model of the world has been built. And you can have a conversation. So what we did, Simon and Jordan, for both of you, is I've sort of come up with my own sort of technique of blending internal family systems, which is a psychological tool, and also using Jungian archetypes and active imagination. Those two things are quite similar anyway. And what we do is we go in and we have conversations with these different parts of our personality, because we're not just one thing, are we? I mean, I could ask either one of you, would you like to go for a drink later on tonight? And a part of you might say, oh yeah, I'd really like to. But another part might go, oh no, but I've got something to do. Or another part might say, oh, but alcohol, we're trying to stay away from that right now. So you'll have all sorts of different feelings going on inside you at the same time. And those are what we are looking at in hypnotherapy, these different parts to your personality that make up you. And then we have a conversation with them, and we can do that. Anytime we use our imagination, you are in direct communication with your unconscious. So I don't want to get too far ahead. We can discuss this and then discuss how people can use their imagination to have these sort of conversations with the different parts of your personality.
I have to ask, Jordan, when you had these sorts of sessions, what sort of conversations did you find you were having with your inner child? Because I feel like you have a very deep connection with your inner child, whereas I am very much in this area of sort of building a relationship with my inner child. So much of my 20s was the conflict of all these different consciouses. You know, we've discussed in many aspects of this show, being all ages at once and trying to, have all of those ages communicate at once is very difficult. But I feel like you're quite far down your journey with that. So, what sort of conversation do you find yourself having with your inner child to let it out so authentically?
I'm like, my inner child's like, dude, your wife is hot. And I'm like, yeah, right? My inner child's like, no, seriously, like she's really hot. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right?
That'll do it. Yeah. Okay,
no, it's just like a horny kid is like, seriously, have you seen your wife? And I'm like, yeah, I know, right?
Well, if only it was that simple. I get to do stuff
and everything like a grown up, but like in my mind, I'm like 16 and just still like a horny teenager, just like, ooh, swing, bada 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 bada, swing. But also at the same time, I'm like, yeah, let's watch some cartoons. And do you know what? And my favorite thing about being in a neurodivergent relationship, and I just like we'll just take a sidewinder, is literally the fact that Sylvia is also just like a big kid. So we like big kids together, and we're just permanently youthful. I mean, Sylvia literally looks the same. Like she's just ridiculous, like how young she looks. And we're just living in a perpetual state of just like youthfulness and embracing that. But yeah, I mean, conversations I've had with my inner child is just like, it's okay. Like, because my inner child, if you think about it, is a scared kid. He's been through a lot, and he's hiding, and he's scared to be himself, and he's scared for other people to see him for who he is. And, I help my inner child become me and say, look, you did go through all that trauma. You did go through all that bullying. You did go through all that horrible stuff as a kid. You've been through that, but look where you are now, and look how hot your wife is. So so it's literally like, it's more of just like reassuring my inner child of like, it's going to be okay. And everything right now, you can't change the past. And this is what Ashley has told me. And this is what Ashley has helped me with the most, which is why I'm literally in the best state of my mental health, is a number of things. And this was key to it, was literally being a witness. So, I mean, those things, I can't just keep going back and going, oh, the things that happened to me when I was a kid. Because I remember literally doing an episode with you and I was literally just angry. And I was angry and said, look, I'm angry because of everything that happened to me as a kid. And then I had a session with Ashley, which was like really helping me with my anger. And I was like, look, I don't. And the thing about Ashley is Ashley says words, but it's like, it's me who helps me. But I can't help me without Ashley, because Ashley is a guide. I'm the one that helps me, but Ashley is the one that guides me to that help. And I help myself by saying, look, those things happen to me, but I can't change that. I can't be angry about those things anymore because they're in the past. I'm now a witness to my own history. So I can be like, embracing them of like, okay, these are the things that happened to me, but let's move forward. And now I started thinking like that with everything. So I'll stub my toe, and instead of getting really annoyed and probably stubbing my toe again when I kick the thing that I stubbed my toe with, I go, well, that's history. So as far as like, I can go all the way back to being a kid, and I can go a couple of seconds. So I'll bang my head, bang my head. I can't change the fact that I've banged my head, so there's no point in getting upset about it. I've never felt so free in this moment, in this part of my life where that's my way of thinking. And it's really weird because I'm normally the one that's getting really agitated about things. And now I'm just like really chill. I notice that everyone around me is getting really agitated, and I'm sitting there like some sort of Zen master going, it's in the past. Let it go. Then move on to the future. And they will look at me like, oh, you're such a dickhead. But you are right. You are right.
But what a brilliant thing for you to create, not just like obviously with help from Ashley, but for yourself, because I've known you really well for a couple of years, and
I've had issues.
But not to like generalize it, but you've been on the hero's journey, you've had some really shit stuff happen to you.
But
look at what you've overcome. Look at what you're now building. I think one of the most selfless acts that anybody can do is sort of realize that you are your own human, and it's your responsibility to look after that human. And within that human is an inner child. And that is one of the sorts of connections that I have made since my last session with Ashley, which I found so incredibly profound. Being able to almost realize that not only is there an inner child inside of me that is 7 years old, and to him, he has just been taken out of school and doesn't really know why, and doesn't trust what people are saying around him is being shown to other schools and trying to fit into those places and not being selected and thinking there's something wrong with you. That sort of emotional environment has carried with me my entire life and has affected so many different elements of my life. But being able to create a separation and having a witness, being a witness to your past, it happened to you. It's not still happening.
Exactly.
That feeling is so incredibly freeing.
Yeah.
It's just, it's incredibly powerful.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I think, sometimes when we do this work, elements of our personality do show up quite almost in a more of a literal sense of our inner child. But then other times it will, you'd be surprised what pops up, what is represented, wizards and mythical creatures, maybe even an inanimate object. But all of those things are still symbols of our inner child. So while it may not always show up as something, as knowing that is your inner child, the unconscious works in symbolism and metaphors. So a lot of symbolic things will come up, but they will all be representative of our inner child, of those models of the world that we have built. So if people do exercises and they see their inner child, that is great. That's a perfect sign that you've latched on there. But even if you don't see your inner child, whatever shows up will be a symbolic representation of your inner child.
Well, that's fascinating
amazing.
You say
Yeah.
that, because when we had our session, you were talking about, well, find this perfect garden in your mind. And mine was a beach. And I could see the sea rolling in and out. And I found I was connecting breath to the ocean and was really sort of relaxing. And when we discussed, somebody's coming to talk to you now, the first thing that the image that came into my mind was a little toy crocodile that I used to have as a kid called Snappy. And from that then led on to the inner child coming forth and really having a conversation. And one of the things that I have noticed since then, which is something that I feel like was really missing from my life, is a sense of wonder. It's like up until that point, I felt like there was so many things that were coming across me in life. And I was kind of going, that's not for me. I haven't got time. Or, I've got things to do. And a quote that I find myself saying a lot of the time when, thinking about work and not being able to have a break and dealing with this move is I haven't got time to bleed. It's like, I've got to get on with it. I haven't got time to bleed. And I didn't realize how exhausted and tired and in need of a break my inner child was until I started listening to him. And I'm now having a week off work. I never do this. I have spent the last 3 days playing video games and editing podcasts. And I've basically just been wearing comfy clothes. And I genuinely feel like I'm having half term from school.
Excellent.
And I feel so rejuvenated. I actually cannot believe, I feel like I've had years taken off my life since our session. And I'm incredibly grateful for it. But I'm wondering, what is there that you think people can do just in everyday life to really restart this conversation, have this connection with your inner child, let them come forth? What can people do?
Well, the unconscious wants to be known. So that's the brilliant thing. So your inner child wants to be heard. So that's great. So that means anything that you touched upon, wonder, curiosity, awe. What in your life brings you those emotions, or even curiosity? We need to elicit more curiosity in our life. With everything, it makes everything easier, even the things we don't want to do. If you can get curious about even the most mundane things in your life, that will be eliciting your inner child, your inner wonder. Get curious about even, doing the dishes or the laundry or, your taxes. I mean, the worst things that you could probably think about doing. Find a way to get curious about them and bring in that wonder and curiosity. So that's something you can do sort of just in general in life, is going to be really good for a wholeness. And then there are certain exercises you can do. Now, I would recommend, somebody who's been through trauma and maybe is feeling a little bit cautious about this, utilizing a professional therapist is always a great idea, because certain things can come up. So it's a good idea to have that if you're feeling a bit cautious and a bit unsure. But a great exercise you can do is find a picture of yourself, sort of between ages 3 and 7, if you can, or any sort of picture of yourself as a young person, and just find a comfortable space and some privacy, and just look at that picture and start to have a dialogue and just see what happens.
I can't believe you said that.
Oh, really? Have you done this?
I did that the other day. Yeah, I was cleaning out my man drawer. It's like the drawer that it's a junk drawer, because I got this huge drawer and I needed to make some space because I do have way too many basketball jerseys and hoodies, and I was going through it and clearing it out, and I found some really old pictures of me when I was a little kid, and I looked at that kid and I just went, it's all good, man. We did it. Because I never in a million years imagined when I was a kid that I would have this life. Like, I never imagined that I would have this life. And when I look at that little kid and what he went through, and I can look at him and go, you know what? It's okay. Like, it's going to be okay. And I cannot, like, every time I talk to you, it's like talking to some sort of angel that has just been put on the earth to say, here you go. We're gonna help you out now. And yeah, it's literally exactly what I was doing.
Beautiful.
So,
beautiful.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was like, oh my God, I literally did that thing.
I love that. I love that was just intuitive as well. That's beautiful. You can have a conversation. You can ask, is there anything you want to know from me? Is there anything I can do to help you? Do you feel safe? Do you feel loved? Tell that little you anything they need to hear. And it might feel very silly. You might say, well, I'm just making this up. Well, yeah, you are. That's your creativity, your imagination emanates from the unconscious. Of course, you're going to be making it up, but it will be coming from the essence of you. So you can't get it wrong. You can't do it wrong. You're not faking it. It is absolutely coming from that deep part of you. So, and writing a story, using your creativity is such an amazing way to connect with your unconscious, to connect with your inner child. You can write a fictional story or a mythical story or a poem. You can dance to the music, put on a favorite song and just really dance like nobody's watching. Really feel, just move your body however it wants to move. All of these things that we can do creatively really helps to access our inner child. And it really helps to bring the unconscious into the conscious realm which helps to bring about wholeness. And that's really what we're trying to do in this, in all that we do, in this podcast and my line of work we're trying to help people achieve this wholeness. That's the etymology of the base for that word is also the basis for health, for holy. So it's divine, it's healthy, it's, this wholeness, this completeness of ourself. If we can bring the unconscious into the conscious realm, if we can bring our inner child into the outer realm and feel as if they are both working together, then that is just next level. That's where we want to be. And that's the journey that both of you have been on. And it's so beautiful.
That's another thing that I actually did, is that I wrote a book. I mean, I've written a few books, but I wrote a book, and then this isn't the autistic experience. I wrote a book before that. It was a fantasy book that was loosely based on me as a child. So the main character is basically me as a little 9-year-old. But it's he goes through similar things that I went through, but it's a fantasy story. And it's all about an undiagnosed kid who loses his older brother, and his father's abusive, but he has a really great stepmom. Because in my mind, I would have loved a stepmom, because he has a mum, and the mum does come into it, and she's awful. But he has a stepmom, and this stepmom, and it's all about her journey as a parent of this difficult child, or everyone's saying he's difficult, but she knows better, and I love it. And it's all about like him having these fantasy moments when he goes inside himself, when he starts regressing because of the trauma. But he manages to get through the trauma by literally having like imaginary adventures that he goes on. And there's like a pirate one, and like a swashbuckling sword fantasy Lord of the Rings type of one. There's like a Halo futuristic one, and like a Luther type detective one. And I just had so much fun just doing all these different genres in this one book of this little kid. But it's also about like the reality of like what his stepmom is going through, and her struggles and stuff like that. And it was incredibly lethargic to create a world in which I actually had control of. That I controlled the narrative, that I controlled the ending. I could say, look, there's a happy ending to this, and I controlled everything that happened. And I wrote it for my kids. Like I never intended on publishing it. I literally wrote it as a gift to my children. That's why there's no naughty words or anything like that. It's suitable for everyone. I decided to publish it once I had an audience. And I've sold it all around the world now. So it's like there's other people that have contacted me and saying they've benefited from what I created. And it does. It feels so good. It feels so good to know that and to feel that. So yeah, I highly recommend just being creative as much as you can. I do it with poetry. I do it with my photography. It's just great to get it out. It really is. And if you want to buy it, it's on Amazon, and it's called A Little Different from the Rest. And that's what I am. I'm just a little different.
For $9.99
for $3 million. No, it's I think it's like 10. I have literally no idea. But yeah, like please buy it. You won't regret it.
I so love that.
I think there's something really nice there. I don't think you realize that the kid that you were writing it for is your inner child.
Oh God, yeah. I didn't realize that at the time, but I definitely know that now.
Yeah. I think that's incredible. So what we'll do, folks, is we'll take a short break, and then we'll see you on the other side. We are talking with Ashley Bentley, hypnotherapist, coach, and breathwork practitioner. Don't go anywhere. This episode of the Neurodivergent Experience is brought to you by RTN Mental Health Solutions. With up to a 5-year waiting list for autism and ADHD assessments via the NHS, and that's even if you get a referral from your GP, getting an assessment in the UK has never been harder. So if you're like me and can't wait anymore, going private may be the best option for you. RTN offers online assessments for kids aged 6 right up to adults, with prices starting at £900.
To make it more accessible, RTN can offer payment plans up to 5 months. You can access their remote services from the comfort of your home anywhere in the UK, and RTN offers group and one-to-one counselling, a private route to access ADHD medication following the assessment, and will even fight for you if your GP doesn't accept the results. So if you live in the UK and can't wait to get an assessment, go to www.rtnmentalhealthsolutions.com and use the discount code RTN23, making it even more affordable for all of our listeners to get an autism and ADHD assessment.
Yeah, we've not figured out how to come back from breaks yet, so I just like how Jordan just goes bow bow bow, and it lets me know that we're back. So we've been talking about embracing our inner child.
Oh, is that us back? Is it?
Yeah, we're back. Yeah. We'll count that as being back. Yeah, I quite literally meant we've not figured out how to come back from the break.
That is the most ADHD way of coming back from a break. Yeah.
You're welcome. Authentic. So while we've been discussing the conversation around the inner child, one of the things that it has made me realize is that a lot of my mental health issues before I was undiagnosed was when I was silencing the inner child. There was moments in university to work where lots of fun things were on my palette. There was opportunities for me to sit down and write something because I had the idea. And every single time I made the excuse of, have you got time? Is it worth your time? Will you make money off the back of this? Will it be successful? And before you know it, I am tail spinning on the feedback loop from hell. When really all I wanted to do was just be creative. And I found myself using lots of adult excuses as to why I wasn't allowed to be creative. And I think a lot of neurodivergent people, especially that are highly masking like I was, tell themselves they aren't allowed to have fun. They're not allowed to be childish. What do you think, in both of your opinions, are the really negative side effects of not being connected with your inner child?
Self-hate.
Yeah.
Oof, gosh, yeah, straight in there.
It's like oil, right? So oil will always come to the surface of water. It's chemistry, right? It always sits on the surface. And you can't push it down. It will just you just push through it, it comes back up. So you're in a losing battle. And it's not a battle that you need to be in. It's a battle that you're creating, and you don't need to be in it. It's fine. That inner child can be, it can sit on the surface. It's fine. Like it doesn't need to be pushed down. And the more you push it down, the more it wants to come back up, and the worse you end up feeling. And it literally has made me physically sick when I have just pushed the real me to the side over and over again. And then, like literally, it's called camouflaging or masking, or however you want to put it. And it's just unhealthy.
Yeah, it's incredibly unhealthy. It puts us in a chronic state of fight or flight because our nervous system feels unsafe when we are denying a huge aspect of ourself and pushing that down. Our nervous system says, whoa, we are not safe here. We need to, this is where, the neurodivergent community, we're already hypervigilant, but when you add in chronic fight or flight, the hypervigilance goes way up, and we're not meant to be in fight or flight in a chronic state. So that produces inflammation, which produces all sorts of health problems. So yes, these pushing down of the essence of who we are is incredibly threatening to our very survival. It really, really is. I can't overstate this. It's so detrimental. And it leaves us feeling so just, the shame and feeling worthless and feeling, why can't I just figure this out? It leads to more confusion as to who you are. And and your place in the world. So it just is so essential that we try and achieve this wholeness. It's just so essential.
You've used a word there that is so associative with what I have been feeling around my inner child, is the word shame.
Yeah.
There have been so many times in my life where things have been my special interest or been in periods of hyperfocus, and I have coated it in shame. You know, like one of my key special interests for me is like personality wise, that's something that I love. I have always loved pro wrestling. And I have done for such a young time. I love everything about it, the colors, the stories, the fact it has a continuous history, the physical entertainment of it all. It has a bit of everything for me. It's why I love it so much. And I did not tell anybody I liked pro wrestling until I was 20 years old, because I was worried about how people would react to me. I was worried about people belittling me over it or trying to pick apart something that I care deeply about. And I actually hid it for so long that I actually stopped being interested in it. And I really felt the absence in my life of this special interest. I really felt like a friend had just disappeared from my life. And there have been, I think, 2 or 3 times throughout my journey where it's gone from being my special interest to not even reading about it. And I've been lucky in that I've now got friends that are interested in it, and a couple of them are ND as well. So they kind of really into it like I am.
Yay.
And that really feeds, you know, it's awesome having a sense of community.
Yes.
But shame, it's such an icky feeling. You know, you use the word oil, Jordan. That's how shame feels to me. And my inner child feels so hurt by shame. It doesn't want to be itself. And when I feel like I'm coated in shame, I'm not being myself, and I just kind of feel like a zombie.
Well, and it affects, you use a great word there, and coated in shame, because it touches every corner of our life. When we've got shame happening just in one area, it affects everything. So we start to view all of our life through this coded lens of shame, which is why it is so detrimental. And this is the beautiful thing about the age that we're living in. Thank goodness, you know, whatever your special interest is that you might be a little bit embarrassed about, guaranteed there's going to be a community somewhere online that's going to be fully into it, that you can, you know, I mean, just think about 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have these online communities where we could really find our tribe, and it was much more difficult to really feel like we could be exactly who we are. But guaranteed, no matter what you're into, there will be a group out there that is into it, and go forth and, you know, explore all of the things that make up you, and stay curious and bring in that awe.
So embracing your inner child is a wonderful thing once you reach adulthood and you've learnt, you know, how to adult. Because essentially, if you want to do well in this world, if you want a life, and if you want a house and a family, or whatever you want out of life, maybe you want to travel the world. In situations, you have to do adulting. You know, we have to book doctor's appointments, we have to, you know, go to an airport, or we have to get a driving license, or we have to go and get a job. And, you know, there are certain things. Yeah, all the
fun stuff.
And there is a worry within the community from the parent side of it, because I get contacted a lot about this. It's in fact, it's one of the things I get asked the most, is like, how did I help my kids, especially my son, struggled to get to at that adult stage. He really struggled, because a lot of the time when he was meant to be growing, which is university, when you move out, and, you know, because that's what's happened with my daughter, with Sophie, is the fact that, you know, she's still a little baby to me, and she's probably about 13 or 14 in her own brain, but she's grown up massively. So she's 21, so she can be 21, but when she doesn't have to be, she doesn't need to be, but she can be, because she went out and she lived 5 hours away, and she did it all, and she rented an apartment, and we were always there. We said, look, if you need us, we're here. But she wanted to do it by herself, and it was just amazing. She's amazing. But there are so many parents that approach me and going, that's just not happening. Like their children are in their mid-20s, no job, or they can't hold down a job. They didn't really do well with their education, and I can attest that I didn't. I had to go and get a degree later on in life, and they're just not moving forward. It's like stuck in your bedroom playing video games all day, watching telly, watching YouTube, scrolling on your phone. They're not moving forward, and that's not embracing your inner child. That is your inner child taking over, and you're not embracing your adult responsibility, because at the end of the day, obviously there are people with severe disabilities, and they'll never be able to live by themselves, but that's not what I'm talking about. And people who are able to, but they've got it easy. And I do say that there's a lot of parents out there that are mollycoddling, and it's not their fault. There's just no real guidance. They don't know what to do. So do you have any advice for them, both of you?
Yeah, you've brought up a really, really good point there. And actually this was running through my mind when I was saying, there is a community out there for everybody, and it's great. I think that one side of things is wonderful. I think where we're running into a problem in today's world is we're losing our ability to build resilience to life. And you're right. I mean, my God, it's got to be the toughest part of being a parent is knowing when to let your child go out and make mistakes and learn and fall down so that they can learn how to pick themselves up, and doing it in a way that is supportive, but also, letting them figure it out. It's so important. And so, I'm not a parent. I don't have children. It's got to be the most difficult thing in the world to navigate that, to walk that fine line. But it is so essential. We help build the resilience of the youth of today. And, one thing that we can do with our children before they set out off into the world is, utilize, as I was saying, those first 7 years, they're in a permanent state of hypnosis, and it's a wonderful time. They're just so into their imagination and creativity. Utilize that, when your child, so parents of young children listening right now, utilize their beautiful imagination right now to help them navigate the tough feelings that they are dealing with, whatever those are, and really get them to meet, the part within them that represents anger and the part that represents sad, and come up with these unique symbols for them, and have them play around with a scenario and have it work out, and have them understand that they can navigate these complex feelings. That is really building a really, really good foundation. Now, to those parents out there who say, well, my kids aren't that age anymore, they're a little bit older, that's fine. Especially I think that the beautiful thing with the neurodivergent community I'm finding in my work is I think we are so much more open to using our imagination. Now, as you were saying earlier, Simon, sometimes you've really pushed that side of yourself down. So we do have to help people feel comfortable to access that part of themselves first, if they're not already comfortable. But then utilizing your imagination to really get to know every part of yourself. As a parent, help your child navigate those different parts of themselves so that they feel like they are in control of who they are. And that feeling of empowerment, as I know that I've got all of these different parts going on inside of me. So that means I can navigate any situation that I come across. And it really helps to build that confidence, that empowerment that, you know what, I can get through anything. So I think really focusing on building the empowerment and the confidence before your child leaves home, and then really trusting that we need life experience, that nothing can replace life experience.
Yeah.
And the way you feel about your child, your child will pick up on that. So if you're feeling really trepidatious, really, so it's important for the parents out there to really trust and really just go, yeah, do you know what? I know they're going to make mistakes, but I know that I am there to help navigate when the mistakes do happen. And I know that, we don't want to wish an easy life on anybody. We really don't, because life gets hard for everybody eventually. So you want your child to have, some not so great experiences when they first set off into the world, and just keeping that trust alive, keeping that communication going. Communication is key, and let them know that you are there for support and guidance, but really believing and trusting in your children to get out there and really start to build their life.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I liken it to like getting chicken pox. So it's way better to get the chicken pox. Chicken pox is awful. It's fine when you're a kid. It's nasty, but you're okay. But if you get that when you're an adult, it can actually kill you. So it's really good to build the resilience of your child from a very early age of just getting them out of their comfort zone. Yeah. And there are ways of doing it if you can just stand to hear the "I hate you" or "You're ruining my life" crap that you will inevitably hear, and you just go, "Oh no, what a bloody shame." I'll make you dinner tonight, despite the fact that you're a little shit. You just have to get through that. I mean, I've been called names, and I just go, "Well, you say that now, but we'll see how you feel about me later." And you just have to get through it. And it is really hard, but everything in life is hard if you want it to be a good job of it. Yeah. But yeah, so Scotty, how did your parents do it?
Do you know what? There's
they made you go down the mine. Sorry.
No, we didn't. No mining for me. They'd already been closed by the time I was born, John. Just makes. I think it's Marvin Gaye who said there's only 3 things in life that are guaranteed: taxes, death, and trouble. And
I said that.
They are, well, yeah, true. But they are, I think about some of the things in life that I've really struggled with, like paying my tax bill and, dealing with certain adversity. I find, my thoughts on the education system are quite apparent on this show, but there are things we don't get taught. We don't get prepared for. You go into life and then suddenly you turn 21 and you've only just realized you can hold a drink. And then suddenly you're being told to prepare for a pension when you retire in 40 years' time. And there is so much that you are bombarded with. I turned 18 and then suddenly people are going, so when do you want kids? When do you want to get married? Are you going to buy a house? Do you want a 3-bed? Do you want a 4-bed? Do you want a car? Do you not want a car?
God.
And it's like, whoa, I've only been an adult for 2 years and suddenly I'm having to have the answer for all of these things. That is the bit that confused me. I feel like I only just got good at school and then I went to university and it took me 3 years to get that right. And then suddenly I was out of it again and I was in the big bad world. And, you get thrown into employment and, when you don't understand that you're neurodivergent like I did, you just feel like you're playing catch up and everybody knows what they're doing. You don't know what you're doing. And if you dare ask a question, you're going to feel embarrassed and you're going to feel like an idiot. That is the hardest thing that I had to overcome, feeling like I didn't know what I was doing. And that in turn made my inner child feel unworthy and that I couldn't trust it. And I stopped listening to it. That was the result of all of this unknown. But I look back on the things that really grew my character and helped me and almost were the roots of my skill tree. the things that I'm really, really good at. And it all started when my year 4 teacher, Mrs. Exley, said to my mum at parents' evening, I think he should do theatre. She put me on a stage. She put me in front of people. And I realized I was funny. I had really good comedic timing. I'm very good at public speaking. And those are skills that I use in everyday life. Like, communication is so incredibly important. And I find I fall back on my theatre skills all the time. Yeah. All the time. Like the ability to recite a monologue or to understand timing in a conversation. These things are actually really important in the adult world. And for neurodivergent people, they don't come easy. So I would say, if you're listening to this and you've got a child who is literally performing a concert for you every Friday night in your living room, please put them in the arts, put them in theatre, because it will feed their creativity. They will add to the narrative of art that is happening. We live in a fucked up world at the moment. And unfortunately, one of the benefits of living in a fucked up world is the art that comes from it is just so expressive, so creative, so incredible, tells the story that the history books don't tell. So that would be one thing that I would really suggest. And 2, my dad took me to play golf. And golf has, in my opinion, has lots of elements of life. You know, it has patience, it has management, it has protecting yourself, not taking risks, being competitive, not being competitive, understanding your deficits and your skills, playing to your strengths. I feel like those 2 things, you know, my mum and my teacher putting me in theatre, and my dad teaching me sport and good gamesmanship and etiquette and being respectful to other people, even when you're not having a good time. I feel like a lot of those skills I've taken into life, but are also so intricate with my inner child. You know, pairing those 2 things together, having something that feeds your inner child and teaches you life skills, for me, I think is the answer. That's my perspective on it.
Absolutely. And I think also to the parents out there, recognizing whatever your child is going through will be hitting and reminding you of your own childhood. So parents out there, you know, do your own inner child work as well. That's going to help you become a better, you know, a better person, a better parent, more empathetic to whatever your child is going through. And anytime we hit a particularly overwhelming moment in our life, can we take a moment to think about, okay, when did I feel this feeling when I was a kid? What happened? What moment is mirroring this right now? And then you can use your imagination and go and have an imaginary conversation with your inner child in that moment, that childhood moment, and tell that little version of you anything that they needed to hear in that moment that they couldn't understand with your life experience and your fully formed, you know, conscious brain. That is also a really effective way, because anytime we have a big moment in life where we're sort of reacting in a way that's a bit out of proportion to what has occurred, that is something, that's the past. That's you reacting to the past. So try and pinpoint a moment in time in your past where you had that feeling, and go back to that moment in your imagination and have a conversation with your little self. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there who don't have very good memory recall from their childhood, and that's all right. Use your imagination, even if you can't remember a specific incident. And obviously, if it's a super traumatic incident, you don't want to do that on your own. You want to do that with a therapist. But if you can't remember a specific moment, that's a great time to use your imagination and try and you come up with some sort of scenario which will be similar to your childhood. Any sort of thing that you can sort of piece together will be effective.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. We're going to go for a break, but I just want to say one last thing that I certainly learned, and it really did change me as a parent, is the biggest problem we had with my son was that he just never wanted to join in a lot of the things. Like he would just want to stay in his bedroom. It was his safe space. You know, this is before we understood autism, before we understood neurodivergence in general. But when he did come out, we would make a thing of it. You know, we'd be, oh my God, you're actually out. Oh, I haven't seen it. Oh, I forgot what you look like. I regret that so much. It was a huge mistake. Because what I should have said is, hello, son. And just like it was just a normal thing, because he told me that when we did that, when we would mock him or like, you know, we thought of it as joking around, that would make him want to come out less.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it had the opposite effect. So if you do have a kid like that, which is very common with neurodivergence, don't make a big thing of it when they do come and join in. Just act like it's just an everyday thing and just be just loving and embrace that, you know. It's like trying to coax out like a rabbit. I was like, come on, it's okay.
That's really important.
Yeah. Don't bring attention to the negative, because that negative will then just get worse and worse. Okay, let's have a little break. And we're back. Does that work? Yeah, fine.
Yeah. We'll go with it. Before we get to the hot topic, guys.
Topic.
Unless you've got something you want to jump in with, Jordan. I am interested to know, Ashley, what is it that you like to do that is your inner child leading? You know, you're wearing your Mighty Mouse top, but I'm interested. What is your sort of inner child special interest? What feeds it for you?
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Probably dancing is a big one for me. I love to dance. I love to sing and just be super, super, super silly. I am all about as much silliness as possible throughout the day, just really silly. And yeah, I do. I love my things like Mighty Mouse and my sock monkey. And, but I also regularly check in with my inner child. I do lots of visualization work. So yeah, but probably I would say dancing is probably my biggest one, where I really feel like, do you know what? I feel like every single age of me is coming together in that moment when I am freely moving to the music. And you know, I'm such a big fan, especially if people say, oh gosh, I'm not creative. I don't have anything. Most people will have at least one or two songs that they really love and put on that music, listen to it. They've done studies recently, or not studies, but the greatest minds in science out there, the researchers have determined that dancing and music without lyrics, dancing and music predates spoken language. So it is just so inherent within us. When you dance, you are dancing with the wisdom of the ages. This is how we process complex emotions before we could speak, moving our bodies to the rhythm. So it's everybody out there. If you think I'm not creative, you are. Put on some music, do some dancing, dance like nobody's watching, and yeah, just really get in tune with yourself.
No, I completely endorse that. I love to dance. The endorphins that it releases is just it just feels good. There's nothing bad about it, and it's just a wonderful feeling. I just wanted to add about the really interesting thing about like the mental health aspect of embracing your childhood is the fact that this wonderful word, nostalgia. Okay. Everybody loves nostalgia. They love to, you know, watch the cartoons they had when they were kids, or toys they had there when they were kids, or, you know, like I sit back and go, I love the basketball from the 90s. And, you know, everyone always thinks everything was better when they were kids, like what they would watch. And
so true.
And it's that sort of nostalgia. It's a feel good. So it's literally proven in this that going back to the positive side of you being a kid is just makes you happy, and that's what we need to concentrate on.
Yeah,
absolutely. And just to add to that, I love dancing. I had a real sort of 2-3 day period. There's an album that I'm listening to at the minute, which I highly recommend. There's a Puerto Rican artist called Bad Bunny. He's huge in the Latin American world, one of the biggest pop stars, but he's just recently released an album that has huge salsa influences in it.
Nice.
And I've had it on in the kitchen, and I've been trying to learn salsa steps with dyspraxia, which has been rather comical, I'll be honest. But, I'm trying, but it is so true what you were saying there with like dancing, music, nostalgia. There is something really powerful about surrendering yourself to those feelings and just living in the moment. Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Jordan, shall we get on to this week's hot topic?
Hot topic.
Oh, hot, 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 hot. Hot, 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 hot.
Hot topic. Love it. That is the best intro to anything ever. So today's hot topic: Bill Gates admits that he's autistic.
Sort of.
Finally.
Sort of.
Nah, come on. I'm going to take the win. I'm going to take the win because I'm a big Bill Gates fan. I'm not a fan of billionaires. Let's just be clear. But I am a fan of billionaires giving away half their fortune in order to help the world, which is actually what he does, despite the internet rumors to the contrary.
Yeah.
And he's like, honestly, as far as billionaires go, he's about the only decent one. And yeah, he has basically said that if he was diagnosed now, when he was a kid, he would have been diagnosed autistic. Something along those lines.
Do you want to hear the quote? I have it up here in front of me.
You do the adult thing.
Yes, of course. So he's the Microsoft co-founder, if you weren't aware, and he's recently, in the past week or so, released his memoir, Source Code: My Beginnings. So there was an excerpt that was shared in the Wall Street Journal where he said, if I was growing up today, I probably would be diagnosed on the autism spectrum. My parents had no guideposts or textbooks to help them grasp why their son became so obsessed with certain projects, missed social cues, and could be rude or inappropriate without seeming to notice his effect on others. He said that the fact that some people's brains process information differently from others wasn't widely understood during my childhood, with the term neurodivergent only becoming popularized in the 1990s.
And that genuinely, as a fan, makes me very happy, but it does not surprise me the least because I'm pretty sure that we have mentioned his name countless times. And
yeah. I
remember watching a lecture from Simon Baron Cohen, who I'm not a particular fan of, but he is a leading expert on autism, and he talked about Bill Gates because the one thing he was saying is like, this is, neurodivergence has been around forever. It's part of evolution. It's part of humanity. We've all evolved together, and it's just a diversity of thinking to diversify the human species. So it's like the idea of Bill Gates not being autistic. I think that's more shocking if he wasn't. But it is wonderful for him to be like, yeah, that's me. I'm good. That's my take on it. I'm just going to take this as the win.
Yeah, no, it's it surprised me that it's kind of, one of the things that sort of always surprises me with like celebrity coming out of autism, ADHD or whatever, is it always seems to be those far later in life. Like, we have these huge prominent outliers, these neurodivergent outliers who have such huge influences on society. I mean, as I am talking to you now, I am using a computer that is running Microsoft. It is so ingrained in culture and society, the little paperclip popping up. We've all seen him. And the only thing about it is like, why can't these people own it a little sooner? You know, it's like it's a shame that he wasn't, coming up in in his 30s when he's this huge developer developing Microsoft, and he goes, one of the reasons as to why I am a coding genius and can see pattern recognition and have, think with the end in mind and have bottom up thinking is because I'm autistic, and this is a reason as to why I am so good at this. Yeah, I'm not great at social cues, but I've changed the world with my code. And I always feel like these sorts of coming outs, the moment's almost gone for it to have a huge impact, in my opinion.
Well, I think it's the fact that times are changing, and that's what it comes down to. And it's like for me, I still get really disappointed that not more huge sports personalities aren't coming out as LGBTQ plus. Like statistically wise, in the Premier League, there has to be many gay or bi players, but
I can tell you there is. Working in sports journalism, we are aware that there are. We just don't have names.
They're still hiding it. That really makes me sad. And I never. And they actually had that in an episode of
Ted Lasso, wasn't it?
Ted Lasso, and that's one of my favorite episodes in Ted Lasso. I absolutely love that episode. In fact, wasn't that the episode that you were in?
Yeah.
Yeah, how weird is that? I actually did not plan to say that. I just remembered you were in Ted. You were in that episode of Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I was in one of them.
Check it out.
Yeah, why not?
So it's a wonderful thing to embrace it, but it's really, really hard. And I think that more and more people are embracing, the neurodivergence because it's being more accepted. And that's what I love doing this, because we're part of that acceptance and accepting ourselves, and we're getting there, and it is held back by dumbass orange twat US presidents who go on tangents about non-factual crap because they're fucking morons. But essentially, we just ignore idiots like that, and we know the facts, and let's just hope that more people embrace it, because for every person that comes out either as gay or neurodivergent or just different, it's the amount of people that will help, because we have an audience, but it's not even close to someone like, I don't know, Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes, has a autistic son. Paul Scholes is autistic. Like, I've watched him in interviews. I've watched him on documentaries. I'm a fan of Paul Scholes. I want to see him. Just just stop being embarrassed.
If Lionel Messi did an interview,
oh my God,
talking about being autistic and how it helped him.
Michael Jordan came out and said, "This is how I live with ADHD." Imagine in that Last Dance documentary when he would talk about his life and said, "Look, because he is diagnosed ADHD, but he never talks about it." It would be world changing for so many people. But what I love is there are a lot of sports personalities, and which is weird because it's mostly sports personalities that seem to embrace this. But there was like Olympians who was talking about being ADHD, and Michael Phelps diagnosed ADHD.
The man is part shark.
Yeah, definitely. And there are silver linings to this grey cloud that seems to sit around on this subject. And I'm just waiting for things to change even more, because they need to. They definitely need to.
Yeah, final word for you, Ashley.
Yeah, well, I think with several thoughts going around in my head about this, I think we can have people's behavior is so often an autonomic nervous system response to try and stay safe, and it's the example of the person who has an autistic son and doesn't realize they're autistic themselves, or they don't want to see it. Sometimes for a lot of people thinking, oh, well, it's so overwhelming to the nervous system to think I've got to reprocess my whole life under this new lens. I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. I'm just going to stay in my little box that I do know, that I'm comfortable with. These are nervous system responses. And this kind of goes into a whole, we can have another conversation about free will. The illusion of free will is a really interesting one, because everything is sort of emanating from an unconscious area to try and keep us safe. So people's behaviors, a lot of time, it's easier to find more compassion for people and understanding, realizing that it's not necessarily, most of the time, it's not a conscious decision. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's a very unconscious decision. And also there is, for me as an example, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So until I didn't know the huge spectrum of what neurodivergence was until 2020, so 5 years ago. So in 2019, there were sort of rumblings in my own life of that I might be autistic. The very first time somebody suggested that I might be autistic, and I immediately dismissed it because all I knew was, expressionless face and no empathy. And it's like, well, I'm the exact opposite of that. And I had no idea. My knowledge was so limited. I didn't know what I didn't know. And that is the case for so many people. So, and yes, the more we talk about this, though, the more people are understanding, as you say. I think it is becoming more accepted. And that is the final thing. I think this need to feel accepted is so inherent within, I know I bring this up all the time, but we have the same brains and bodies as our hunter-gatherer ancestors. And so this is why we're dealing with things like shame and jealousy and caring what other people think. And this need to be accepted is so inherent within, because it was vital when we lived in those small tribes. We had to be accepted or we probably wouldn't survive. So this need to feel accepted is so inherent within us that we really do have to, again, it's easy to find compassion for people who aren't yet there. But it's so important that we do keep this conversation going. This is why your podcast is so amazing. And the more we talk about it, the more people understand what a huge spectrum neurodivergence is, and how amazingly freeing it is to begin to understand yourself. Once you do, if you are neurodivergent, once you do start to understand that and really start to, you just can understand yourself on such a more beautiful, deeper level. So those are my thoughts.
Wonderful.
Beautifully put.
And that is about it. Let's wrap this up.
Yes, so we have now come to the end of the show. So thank you so much for listening. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us again. Really look forward to having you on soon, as you are our in-house therapist.
Love you, Ashley.
Looking forward to, I think free will would be a great episode to discuss next time. And we will catch you in the next one. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Neurodivergent Experience. We hope today's episode sparks something for you, whether it's a new idea, a bit of validation, or just a moment of connection. Remember, new episodes are every week, so be sure to join us for the next one for more conversations and insights into the neurodivergent experience. If you've enjoyed this podcast, help us grow. You can do that by rating and reviewing this show. Your support makes a huge difference in helping us reach more people who could benefit from these conversations. You can connect with us on social media. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Just search for the Neurodivergent Experience. Thank you again for listening. And until next time, take care of yourself. You're not alone in this journey.